If you're listening to this song and wondering what this, if you're listening to the song and you're wondering what this is, ladies and gentlemen, that's a song from the 80s called Burning Down the House. And no, we are not mocking what's going on in California. What we're doing is we're trying to bring a little bit of attention to a situation that maybe not have been completely avoided, but ladies and gentlemen, the politics and the divisive politics that continues to reign in the United States is fascinating. And it amazes me how the left continues to want to focus the blame on things. But when the right pushes back or says something, now you're off limits. And once again, death and devastation is being politicized. Welcome back, everybody, to the Rant Network. This is the dynamic duo of Stuart Brisgell and David Solomon. I know he's wondering what the hell, which intro did he come up with? I got a different one than him. We do this with an unedited, unfiltered, uncensored, and frankly, we go on everything on these conversations. I cover everything from the latest news, pop culture, politics, and the quirks, folks, of modern life. This is a roller coaster of rants. Yes, we go up and down on a whole host of opinions, thoughts, diverse perspectives. This is the unedited part, folks. I can't get it out today. We want to make you think. We want to make you laugh, but we really want to get you to really shout at times when it really, really matters. Sit back, relax, folks, because we're about to hit another rant. Folks, Stuart and I have this week watched the devastation, and it's amazing. Apparently, as of this morning, the entire size of Manhattan has been burnt down in the LA area, and it's awful. It's been weeks and weeks of no rain. There's a lot of disaster, Stuart. I don't know if you heard this morning, but a Canadian, or precisely a Quebec water bomber was collided with an unauthorized drone. It grounded planes. This is a mess. This is a mess. But a mess that, folks, the left needs to drive a stake to show it is right and everybody else is wrong. And this is how we're going to avoid forest fires in the future. I beg to differ. Stuart, what say you on this fine Friday?
That's what I have to say. Why am I bringing music in? It's kind of like we're bringing some jazz, now bringing up another 80s band, Tears for Fears, shout. And to be honest with you, the drum solo is exactly what Gavin Newsom likes. Drum roll, please. Lights, camera, action, politics, blame game, the federal response. I can go on and on and on. And let me tell you something. The reason for this is it's California. Why am I bringing music and talent and dance? Under every single federal mandate, the federal government covers 75% of all these natural disasters. That is the typical pledge that every government and president has done. But because the only base left in this country of being left-twisted DEI is California, Biden has now pledged 100% expense to the federal government for the next 180 days. You want to talk about politicking? It's not Donald Trump calling greasy ball, Gavin Newsom, who walks around with his nice logo bear, which, by the way, costs, I don't know how many thousands of dollars, his custom uniform with the bear on it. These drought-like conditions, yes, global warming. I applaud you. Okay, let's go with that. It's all global warming. If it's all global warming, you knew that there's an issue. But yet your government, local, state failed to mitigate whatever damage there was. Well, we couldn't mitigate it. You have the largest gross domestic product to any state and more than the entire country that David is hailing from, Canada. How's that for crazy? There's more money in taxation in California, more regulation than in Canada and the rest of the United States combined. And Canada's pretty damn like, the sister of California. Can't even come close. with its regulations. But again, why is everyone so sensitive to the facts on how we got here? The law, you know what? All the rock stars and movie stars, hey man, I hope you grab your DNC ticket and you choke on it because you're out of your house because they couldn't figure out a way, knowing that their fire system was inadequate. Hey, man, they know that if your cow farts too much, it's going to cause global warming, but they didn't know that if we had a fire and our fire hydrants couldn't produce enough water pressure, if there even was enough water, but we can't fix that problem. If you believe that insanity, you're dumber than a doornail and haven't been listening to us for the last 4 years. Get your head out of the sand, you ostrich, because, even Biden canceled his trip to Rome, probably his last chance to get his last forgiveness from Pope, Mr. Popey. But he flew to California, clearing the airspace for the bombers to drop sand and water. Talk about a drama show. Trying to preserve whatever little credibility the DNCs have. This is a water resource controversy that our incoming president is calling sending water from North Carolina to help California because California refuses to help itself because there's some fish that no one can eat may have a risk of having a population issue. I mean, I can't make this shit up. I wish I could, Dave. This DEI nonsense that hailed from Harvard University and bled into every single classroom in the United States, Canada, and abroad is tackling the entire world. And you know what? I'm sorry, you like to say that, in our green room, David, that I'm just so centric. Well, it's the only thing in the news is this wildfire. David, you're right. The center of the world today seems to be United States because of the idiosyncrasies that are being put in the news. Europe has gone more to the left, overregulated to the point, and United States has ignored a lot of really good regulations. I'm going to give Europe this, not Canada. Canada is corrupt as the United States. They have a cleaner food system, more restrictive chemicals in the food process. They've even reduced what can and cannot be deemed consumable. But here in the United States and Canada and Mexico, we don't follow those rules. However, Europe has other stupid shit that's going on. So again, you can't make this shit up. And all of this is born from the insanity of DEI and the falsehoods around the proliferation of the right is not a falsehood. It's the truth. LA Times, which is the most left-wing newspaper that comes out of LA, is actually now saying the DNC is actually responsible, and Gavin Greasy Newsom literally is the cause of them not being able to properly mitigate these problems. He's too busy trying to sound fluffy. I had a board meeting last night, David, over in the association, and I had a lady come up to me and tell me, Stuart, why aren't you a little more softer with people? And I'm like, you don't pay me to be softer. But Stuart, you're a smart enough guy. Why don't you act a little more mature? I go, I'm 53 years old. I'm pretty damn mature. Why don't you talk to people without the profanity? Because you fucking stopped listening to logic. Why am I having to explain A, B, C? I just don't get it. David, this fire, as I get way off topic, and the blame is 100% on Gavin Newsom for being a failed governor, being able to go. You don't like on
No,
Gabby.
you know, Stuart, you know the left is now yelling and screaming at you, and if they haven't thrown something at their screen or they hurl their phones, because you know, Stuart, the left doesn't want to be blamed. Don't blame the left. The left is always right. You're wrong, Stuart. I mean, don't you understand that? Don't you know already by now that the left is always right? The left is correct. That the left knows better than you and me, and the left, he has to teach us how to take a pee. It's all amazing. But let's get to the point here. The left has got no credibility in my mind. Because 10 minutes ago, the left stood up and said, all those entertainers who are against Israel say I'm on your side and you deserve to be listened to. But when entertainers like Henry Winkler and others stand up and say, this isn't green, this is not climate change, this was arson, and we could avoid these type of problems because we know what's going on, the left says, no, you're wrong. The left is decided it's about climate change. And by the way, the one thing I agree with you is this story has gone global for exactly that reason. The left needs to prove once again it knows better. Automatically, a forest fire, well, that's climate change. Like in history, in all of the global history we've had, the thousands of years of history we've never had forest fires. Drought, has anybody heard of the term drought before in history? I mean, is this only a 20 or 21st century phenomenon? No. So explain to me how this happens. What I have a problem with, Stuart, is politics. Gavin Newsom, like you said, taxes, overregulates, spends money in areas to ensure to get reelected. Let me give you, Stuart, and I'll remind our listeners and our viewers once again, the key to getting elected is not fixing. The key to electing is build new highways, build new bridges, open up new buildings. But if you do preservation, no one notices and no one cares. So we need to start forest fires, and people are going to say to me, that's extreme. Hey, if I put an ounce of prevention, you don't notice. So I can't get elected on that. So here is the problem that once again the left is focusing on. He wants to talk about reparation payments. He wants to talk about all these things that will ensure his 2028 campaign. But you know, it's interesting, Stuart, because when the left goes out and attacks your good old governor, Ron DeSantis, a guy I have tremendous respect for, who has dealt with hurricane after hurricane after hurricane in an extraordinary fashion without worrying about politics, without worrying about who voted for whom, regardless of what FEMA has screwed up, because you know we know what has happened on that end with the American government, right?
Yep, North Carolina.
Right? And then when a reporter asks him, like, why are you criticizing Gavin Newsom? Why do you get to criticize me? Why do the left get to criticize the right unabated in these situations? Gavin Newsom mishandled it. Face the fact. He should resign as governor because he is responsible ultimately for the protection of his people, and he didn't do anything. And I also think that the mayor of LA should resign as well because she was absent. She was useless. She wants to cut.
Unapologetic. Okay, David, I got to cut you in because we got a few minutes left. And before I play some more 1980s thrill music, I gotta bring up this. While the world is having a war in the Ukraine, a war in Israel, this is the only thing that's on the news. Now, I want to tell you of the thousands upon thousands of homes that are destroyed. As David likes to tell me, I have very big problems when I deal with the different areas of commerce. What's the terminology you use, David? I have a problem with American Express. What are they? Problem with the
first world problems.
Okay. California has a real first world white problem. Predominantly every single house that burned was a multifamily house owned by a white person. And most of all those people all have a second home somewhere else or somewhere else to go and stay. So unlike North Carolina, where the Red Cross and FEMA were told skip houses because of politics, there it was not.
He loved us. Yeah. Oh, it feels so good to
You see, David.
We've got a sound machine, and now we're into the children's department.
Ding dong.
Shamalama
So
ding
here
dong.
it is.
Stuart, I got to tell you something. It really, it's fascinating to me how twisted. And by the way, it's very, again, U.S. centric to believe that the only story is what you missed, which was, by the way, the funny story. And I am going to pull this a little bit out of there. Is my stupid current prime minister was on CNN, and so like the world, U.S. focuses on some funny stories, but when those of us who are not in the U.S. There are other stories that are going on in the world. There are other stories, other devastation. But it just shows you one thing, that in the United States, we're focusing on California, where poor rich people lost their homes. And oh no, what are we going to do for these poor rich people? But you don't hear that about the drought in South America. You don't hear about the famine in Africa. You don't hear it about the killing fields in parts of Asia. You don't hear about this devastation. Because Americans do not want to actually address real world problems. Real world problems is not only what happens in the United States. And that's the fascination. And then you wonder why when you guys travel and you go around the world, you're shocked by what you see. Because sure, in Australia, they'll talk about the forest fires, but that's not the lead story. That's not the only story. And that's the amazing thing. And that's why you guys struggle around the world. But this is the problem. The left and the right in your country fight to make sure that the only problems that matter, that the U.S. is exactly. Crickets. So folks, look, as we wrap it up, Stuart, I'm going to leave you with the last word for today. You know what? If these politicians would do their fucking jobs properly, and now I'm swearing at like Stuart, do your jobs properly. But you can't. And Gavin Newsom is only worried about his presidential, campaign in 2028. He wants to preserve it, and he needs the Democrats, and he needs the media, and he needs everybody else to say, no, Gavin, he's Teflon. You don't touch Gavin, okay? Unlike what you did to DeSantis and every other Republican candidate, Gavin's our guy for 2028. Stuart, last word to you. Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, since Stuart is done, thank you so much for joining us on the Rant Network. We're going to cut off Stuart's Spotify.
No, I already cut it off.
On that, folks, hope you enjoyed today's episode and found this discussion engaging and somewhat insightful. Your support means the whole world to us, and we look forward to having you again on this unedited, unfiltered, uncensored conversations every Monday, Wednesday, Friday when we broadcast at noon Eastern. Follow us on social media. We're back on Rumble, so you can check us out over there. Share us, and until next week, have a great weekend.